So now I will introduce you to a special guest who writes about books for children, basically based out of mythologies. His books blends adventure, imagination, and a fresh take of familiar legends, all through the eye of children. Please welcome the author of Nisha Small and Mythology and the Minotaur, C.G. Salamander. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So I just want to ask, what inspired you to start writing about children books?
Um, I, I've always been interested in comics and graphic novels, and writing for children seemed to be the most obvious outlet for the world. To kind of answer this very frankly, I started writing a few children's books, and then I just kept getting more and more work from children's books related publishing, and then eventually you have 20, 30 titles, and then you complete to it. So that's the reason behind why I have so many children's books. But about the inspiration aspect of it, I like doing children's comics because the medium is very special. What happens is when you read prose, when you kind of read the text and then your mind makes up the visuals. So if I were to write a book about a particular setting, you would read it completely differently from your colleague behind the camera, basically. However, and then there's the other extent where with a medium like film, where when someone watches a movie, you see exactly what the director, the filmmaker is telling you to look at. Comics is a good in between because you do have the images, on the panels, etc., etc. But there's also a lot of action or imagination that happens between the panels, and that's why I really like it as a medium. And the best way for me to kind of explain this to you is if you can think of just kind of quickly imagine like a three-panel comic where the first one you see it all, and then the second one you see it kind of running into the road, and then the third one you will just see kind of you hear the sound of the crash, and I'm not necessarily showing you that the dog is hit or the dog has escaped, but the reader's imagination fills in the gaps, and then it's a very interactive medium. And I think for children, this is one where they can kind of come in and collaborate with their creativity as well. So yeah, that's the long answer.
Yeah, so nice. I'll talk about your book, Mythology and the Minotaur. So Minotaur is basically a Greek mythology character. So how would you thought to combine it with a children's book?
That's a very good question, and I think I can answer it in two parts. The first is that when I started writing these books, or when I was a kid reading these books, there was a lot of inspiration, or there were a lot of books from Greek mythology and Egyptian mythology, etc. And till date, I think it kind of dominates the market. I had a lot of influences from there, and what I do as a children's writer is I try to take different mythical creatures from different mythical traditions, predominantly Indian, and then I try to turn them into fantasy books, so works of fantasy essentially. And the justification for me to be able to do so was, there was the Greek trading route, and therefore there are kind of Indian iconography in Greece, and then you have Greek iconography in Indian coins, temples, etc. So that was loose enough for me as a reason to say, let's do this.
Nice. Which mythological character are you bringing up next?
Oh, that's a lovely, lovely question. Okay, so then I have to answer this again in two parts. So there's a theme to my answers. So I have a book called Song of the Asura out, and this is with HarperCollins. The Asuram is this mythological creature from Sangam literature. So this is ancient South Indian Tamil literature between, say, 300 BC to 300 CE. And it's a very unknown mythical creature. And let me try to describe it for you. It's this great, huge, big formidable, large bird-like creature with sharp claws and talons, and it kind of, swoop down and destroy entire monsters. But it also had this one weakness, and this weakness was that it really liked the sound of music. So every time it would listen to either the sound of nature, the rustling of leaves, or streams, etc., it would venture out of its cage, and then it would kind of start dancing to the tunes of nature. And interestingly enough, this is how my ancestors allegedly hunted them, because they would go and then they would play melodious music to draw them out, and then you would have someone hiding behind a bush who would play this huge, like loud drum beat, and then this loud drum beat would startle them and cause them to crash into the ground, and it would also cause them to sometimes die. So these Asuran were phonophobic, so they were very afraid of sounds. And this is the first book. The second one is Ares, which are again colossal, larger than elephant creatures, and you find them sculpted into the Mandapam in Bhagavad. So yeah, and there's also a book with Ashet that chronicles 100 mythical creatures in a travelogue format across India, and then I'm trying to pick certain pictures. Sorry for being so long with my answers.
No, it's perfectly fine. Yeah, so related to this only, I just want to ask the creature that you are describing are basically huge and big, but in your books, they are very cutesy, very
Yeah.
childish. So, what made you think, or what made them in that way?
It's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful question. And it's the same question my editor actually asked me from the HarperCollins series, because they're like, why are all these creatures so massive? Give us like a small one. And that would be the third book of HarperCollins. But with regards to these books, again, the very frank reasoning for this is whenever you bring a big creature into the story, my partner in crime, who is Rajiv, who is the illustrator, it becomes very difficult for him to draw scale. So if there's a creature that is bigger than an elephant next to, say, a human-sized girl, it drives him kind of mad endlessly. And I am cruel to him at times by the way I script these, but not so cruel that I make him go mad. Really huge, big contrasts. Again, that's one thing.
Kudos to your illustrator.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
Yeah.
It needs all along.
Yeah. So the last question is, when you were writing this book, and did you imagine children's reading in a particular way, or it's just you just want to tell them about the Greek mythological creature
So,
like that?
again, it's a very interesting question, because okay, so I probably wouldn't have been able to answer this if not for like 2 hours ago, because there was a session I did at Bookaroo, which is happening in
Sundar Nursery.
University.
Yeah.
Plugging Bookaroo and stuff. And over there, I was talking about the same set of books along with the other Ashet book, which is about 100 mythical creatures across India from north to south, east to west. And I would ask them, what are mythical creatures that you know, etc. And then they would start listing all of these different mythical creatures from all of these various different traditions, Egyptian, Greek, and then someone was talking about some Slavic woman, something called I had no idea what it was, a dancing lady, and then if you go close to her, then she will come and attack you. So that was interesting. But
Not heard of it.
very dark. So the children knew all these mythical creatures, including everything from India. And I think looking back, my reaction is one of happiness, because my readers or most Indian children are very well versed with mythologies, and restricting them to a particular geography would have been a disservice. Having said that, my next big project is to kind of seek out or fish out these smaller, lesser known mythical creatures and just kind of scavenge them out and have different understanding. So that's what keeps me occupied. So,
Very nice. Thank you so
no,
much.
thank you so much.